welcome, guys. Thank you for talking to me today. I just had the pleasure of watching the film yesterday, and I was quite surprised by sort of how dense, and I don't mean that in a bad way, but I just mean how many sort of issues you were able to kind of tackle in the very comparatively short running time of the film. Can you guys talk a little bit about like how you found this Well, I know Mr. Carey, you were a co-writer on the script, correct?
Well, we all were really. So Rupert Bainham was the original writer, and then he worked with Chi Mai on the story, and then myself and Bertrand got involved once it got to screenplay level, and yeah, we were all writing it along with a bunch of the guys from Summer Leighton, from the project in Brixton where we shot the film.
Okay, and so like what what was the motivation to like tell the story of Benji and Leah? Because I think when you watch it, you can kind of come away with a lot of different stuff. So for you guys, what did you want to get across? What story were you guys really wanting to focus on?
Yeah. So when Rupert originally wrote the script, it was very much uh, based on his experience. He went to like quite an exclusive school in the UK, and a lot of the posh guys in school with him would be obsessed with street culture,
Right.
um, and they put on accents and they'd listen to grime music. It was all grime at the time, and then he just found it very strange, and he was wondering why what seemed kind of harmless, that cultural appropriation, why it bothered him so much.
Mhm.
And then it's kind of an exploration of that, of like where that would lead if you did try and integrate into a community like this. So that's where it began. And then when myself and Bertrand got involved, that's when we started to include the references to like social media and image versus reality,
Mhm.
uh, because it's something that we're both very preoccupied with, being not massive social media heads ourselves. So it just, we're noticing a trend in wider society that it just seems like image is starting to trump reality, no pun intended. Um,
Right. Yeah, I actually I noticed that's one of the things I took away as well is that you sort of the things that you're dealing with are sort of as old as time, but it's a very sort of 21st century kind of take on it. What with the vlogging and the YouTube and all that kind of stuff. I thought that was a very a clever way to sort of make it very relevant to today, but still deal with classic human flaws. I wanted to ask, so you guys, what was it like for you to direct a feature after having, according to IMDb, only done shorts in the past?
It was a big. I mean, it was a big adventure. We all met like me, Darragh, and Rupert, and she all met at the London Film School, and so we were working on feature film scripts over there and helping each other out on each other's scripts. And so Rupert's script was the one he was developing at the London Film School, and then yeah, we did lots of workshops together and short films as well. But yeah, I think like the feature film definitely is a big chunk and it's a big challenge for anyone, I guess. But for us, I mean, a lot of it was in preparation and in the discussions and watching lots of films together and working like closely with the community and making sure we're trying to make the best film and tell the best story with the themes we're talking about. So with Darragh, we had lots of we watched lots of movies and had lots of references. And the more you watch movies together, the more you kind of have you develop kind of similar language. Like film is a language, and you say like, oh, like this scene in this film, or let's try to do like what they did in Taxi Driver, what they did in Fish Tank, or you start to have these really common references. And for us, I think it was lots of preparation, lots of time with the script, but as soon as we got on the film set, it was really quick shoot. It was 18-day shoot, so it was like and 6 days per week, so it was like a big marathon. And we were just like we were literally sleeping in the same room with Darragh and like just getting like be together all the time and just focusing on the film and making sure like we'd get the story across. But lots of it was in preparation, and it was really long. I guess with any feature film it's the case, but lots of time in preparation to make sure the film shoot went well.
Was it extra challenging to shoot like on the streets of London? Because I have to imagine, I mean, that's a big city. I was going to ask what it was like to be able to shoot in the city like that.
Well, there were some challenges that we didn't see coming that we should have. So, for instance, Brixton is under a flight path, so
Oh, wow.
they goes by every 90 seconds.
Yeah. Yeah.
So
At least you don't have to deal with the Concorde anymore, which would have been louder.
exactly. So Len, who did our sound, and Ariane, who also worked on sound, they were having a nightmare.
Yeah.
It meant a lot of technical takes that we wouldn't otherwise have had to do. That's why a lot of people don't shoot in Brixton. Another thing was, I mean, we didn't find too much issue with crowd. Like, people are pretty chill in Brixton, you know. So that wasn't so much of an issue. Actually, the most challenging shoots were when we were in an enclosed space with a huge crew. To us, what was a huge crew. That was the most challenging, because you know, everyone's jammed in together, and it's very difficult to find space to work and just space to get time, you know, because you have to take small breaks throughout the day. The whole crew does, you know, and the cast. So that was actually more challenging than shooting out in the street, even though the weather changed. Like, we had one day and it was like 4 different seasons in one day.
Yeah, I can imagine. I wanted to ask, so we've seen sort of recently, I think we're seeing sort of more directorial teams kind of be a thing, which hasn't been as much of a thing in the past. Can you guys take us through a little bit of like your process as co-directors, like how you divvy up the work and who does what?
Yeah, we were kind of as one strange Siamese twins, kind of like conjoined entity for pretty much the whole process. So it wasn't so much a division of labor as just we were both very much in synergy the whole way through. And I think part of that was the long prep that Bert mentioned, is that we spent so long talking about this film that we knew exactly what we were making. We had this giant folder of like references and images and plans, like a huge big binder of what we'd spoken about before. So we had a very combined vision, so that wasn't really an issue. I think once you get into post-production and you split up into different countries and stuff, that's when it started to get challenging. But I think the reason there's more teams as directors is because there's a bit more democracy when it comes to filmmaking these days, is that it's easier for people. Before, it would be people with crazy resources, so everyone could make it because everyone was an aristocrat or whatever. so now, because because you can scrape together the resources to make a film like this, then it means that you work in teams with your friends, you know. And I think there's a little less ego sometimes when you just want to do it for the love of film and not for the kudos.
Did you guys ever have any like disagreements over anything, or like in the editing when you were cutting the film, was there ever stuff like that maybe that you wanted to keep that Bertrand didn't want to, or vice versa, or were you guys pretty much simpatico the whole way?
I think there haven't been much disagreements. I mean, in the process, I think it's in the process of writing and getting ready for the shoot that you have more like challenging discussions, but it's not like disagreements. It's just like, oh, what about this idea? And okay, let's try this idea. Like let's I like an expression I like is, let's take this idea for a walk, you know. So whenever someone throws an idea, you're not sure, like, okay, let's just see where it leads us, you know. So as soon as we had all this discussion done in the earlier process, then when we got to film shoot, like, we had lots of challenges because it was such a small budget. We had there was lots of challenge whenever there's not enough money, you know, you have to make choices, and sometimes we had to cut out, like, we didn't have time to film all the scenes we had planned for the day, so we had to cut out scenes. But you know, since we had done all the talks in preparation, it was quite easy to say, okay, well, this one we can get rid of this one and hope we can still edit the film, you know. So like, you know, we had written 100 scenes. I think we shot 89 of them. So like, even in the short film shoot, we lost 10 scenes, and then there were other ones that were connected to these 10 scenes that we had to kind of try to figure out how to edit them out. So in the editing, it was another challenge, you know, because we had all these 89 scenes, 11 missing, and some of them were like a bit messy. So we'd be like, okay, can we combine these two scenes? Can we cut this one out? So there were lots of discussions and try and error just to figure out how to retell this story with what the material we had. But there wasn't much like the confrontation, because I think the idea of the film and the references we had were quite similar.
And
Were
we're
you guys friends or coworkers prior to this, or did you guys meet on this film?
Oh no, we're friends in film school, like with
Okay.
Rupert the writer and she who worked on Rupert with the story, and a bunch of the crew actually as well. We went to the London Film School together, so we knew each other quite well.
It's easier to get a crew together when they know you and they work with you, and you can call up and say, "Hey, I don't have much budget, but I need your help."
Yeah, they were incredible.
So the film is really anchored by, well, everybody. There's great performances all around, but really the two leads are very strong. How did you select Ola and Lily, and what was your process like to get these incredible performances out of them?
Well, we found them because we had an amazing casting director, Lucy Rands. So she found the experienced actors on the crew. We did a lot of the actors did come from Brixton, from the local community, but those guys were Lucy Rands found them. And then during the audition process, we had lots of we ran through the scenes, but we also did some improv. And I mean, like, we had some incredible people come in to read for Benji, like really brilliant actors, and some of them are doing really well now, and we're just kind of behind the scenes so delighted because they were so good in the audition process. But like, you know, Ola reading the scene, he's a movie star, you know, so
Yeah.
this guy's a movie star, so we have to cast him. He's amazing. And then Lily was like, we already knew quite a lot about Lily because she's already had a bunch of success. She was the lead in an amazing film called Pincushion. But then when she came into the audition, we saw even more. Like, her ad-libbing is amazing, and she's a method actor, very naturalistic. So the two of them together gave a great performance.
Yeah, it was really interesting to direct the two of them because they had really different approach also to work on the scenes, you know. So Lily, as Darragh mentions, was a like more method actor. So we called her Leah on set, and you know, she was really into the emotions, understanding what the emotions of the scenes were and how her character was feeling. So whenever we went to speak with her, you know, she's really brilliant actress, and she's really emotionally intelligent as well. So whenever we went to speak with her, we'd be like, okay, well, when he says this, you know, this is how you feel and this is how you react, and she really understand that well. But whereas with Ola, he had such a great transformation of his character from the beginning till the end. And sometimes, like, since he started up there and he finished down there, we the only things we had to tell him was, okay, so remember, like, last scenes you were here and now you're going there. So now you're just spot in the middle. So like, oh, don't forget, now we're at the beginning of the movie. So all that you were trying to do later on, it's not there yet. So with him, it was really just reminding him of where he was coming from and where he was going. So it was really different way of speaking. And sometimes I remember like saying to Lily, like, you just came from there, you're going there, and she was like, okay, no, this, like, you can feel this didn't work with her, and the other way around when you speak to Ola and be like, oh, so the emotional of this, like, like the two of them could understand, but it was not what was working the best for them, you know.
Right. Okay, well, we're about out of time, so I guess the last question I'd like to ask is, there's a lot of meat in the film. There's a lot of stuff to be considered. For each of you, is there something in particular you'd like the viewer to take away from the film, or just kind of let them do with it intellectually what they're going to do with it?
Yeah.
Personally, I'm a fan of letting people read the film by themselves and make what they like out of it. You know, we've created something, and then it's up for people to make what they think of it. But maybe there is something to add.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was going to say. The only thing I would add is, if they come out of it with a question rather than a statement in their mind, then I think we've done our job. I think that's a great way to leave a film, is to have questions.
Yeah, I agreed, and it certainly does. Well, I want to thank both of you for taking the time to talk to me today. The film is very good, and I wish you both success, and I hope everybody in the world sees it.
Thanks a lot. Thanks so much. Thanks for taking the time.